Coming up next on At Your Service, we're going to be talking with Leah Jaspers, the Network Area Manager of AACPS Community Schools, to learn all the ins and outs of these amazing programs. Stay tuned. Leah Jaspers is a Network Area Manager of AACPS Community Schools and a staple within the educational framework of our district and state. Leah has served within AACPS and at MSDE with roles dedicated to the health and wellness of our greater communities. Serving in her current role as Network Area Manager is a continuation of this passionate purpose of hers. Welcome to our show, Leah.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Can you share a little bit about your role within AACPS Community Schools?
Yes. AACPS has 47 community schools.
Wow.
And I've had a couple different roles in the community schools office as we've grown from 7 to 15 to 23 to 38 and now 47.
Wow.
And so I work primarily now with the community schools in the Glen Burnie area, and I support them with all things implementation of the strategy and coordination across schools and collaboration with community partners.
That's amazing. What has inspired you to do this work?
Well, I think that as a former teacher and as a health educator, you see kids who aren't performing at their best because they're not healthy and well, or they don't have the resources or tools that they need to be successful. And what I love about the community school strategy is we can dedicate time and energy and effort into helping kids with all sorts of things outside the classroom that will impact their learning inside the classroom.
I love that.
So I know we're all familiar with community schools. You work in AACPS, it's something that we work with, partner with you all the time. But for our audience and people who might not be familiar, can you tell us what the community schools model is and then how it operates within AACPS?
Yeah. So community schools is a strategy that is funded through the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. And the strategy is really acknowledges that there are communities with a high concentration of poverty or significant need that really need to have that it takes a village mentality to help not just the students but the families, and to have the families and the community members really help the schools. So it's kind of a team approach to educating the whole child and also supporting families and having those family and community members support the school. The strategy is funded through Blueprint. It funds a community school program manager who manages a grant that the school can use to implement a variety of what we call wraparound services. So a wraparound service might be vision, medical, dental services. It could be increased access to food or physical activity, and also things like student enrichment, extended programming like in the summer, and just making sure that we're acknowledging all the different ways that we can enhance children's ability to learn, not just by, them sitting in the classroom, but by giving them experiences and resources that will allow them to bring that knowledge and those skills and assets into the classroom.
I love that. I feel like you kind of already described this, but what would you say is the core mission of community schools, and in what way does that connect to AACPS's core mission?
So, the AACPS mission, or belong, grow, succeed, that is the same mission we have in community schools, right? So if we're trying to increase a student or their family's sense of belonging, then we would have all sorts of after school activities, or weekend family field trips, or help connect them with community resources, and making sure that we're acknowledging all the important health assets that are needed, um, and then succeed, right? Like, we hope that all the supports that we're providing translate into the classroom and into them reaching their fullest potential by being available for that learning that's happening in the classroom.
I love that.
And is it, kind of back to the previous question though, the difference between a community school and a school that's not a community school really is about the school has some extra funding, has some extra resources, and it's also, the model seems to be that the school is kind of the hub where that the community can kind of revolve around in terms of lifting up that community or supporting them to kind of have more supports or have better opportunities for their kids. Is that kind of maybe the difference between a community school and a non-community school?
Well, community schools have been around forever, right? They're not new. They're all over the country, and have been all over Maryland. But with Blueprint, we are now funding this strategy, which is, like you said, Ryan, like that neighborhood hub, resources, kind of like when you think of the library, like, you can go there for all sorts of things. We want schools to be those places that you can go for all sorts of things, and we have this captive audience that is there every day, right? So in Blueprint, though, the difference is that there's some designated funding for that staff member who manages the grant, for those wraparound services, and also for things like additional staff members, like additional school social workers or school psychologists, or maybe an additional person who speaks Spanish that can do more interpretation and translation for a school that has high rates of other speakers of other languages. So we have a lot of opportunities, not just with those individuals, but with that funding. And in Maryland, probably should have mentioned this earlier, Maryland, the way that you become a community school is based on your 3-year FARMS average.
Okay.
So FARMS is that free and reduced lunch application, and if your school has 55% or more students who are FARMS or families who receive free and reduced lunch, then you would be eligible for this grant, this community schools grant through Blueprint.
Which would bring all those great resources.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah.
And so you've talked a lot about how this helps students. How does it help the wider community or parents? Not necessarily always students, but how does it help that wider community of school stakeholders?
Well, we have a lot of really wonderful community partners and a lot of programs that are for the kids and their families. So one partnership I wanted to highlight was we have a partnership with Anne Arundel County Recreation and Parks Office of Child Care. And they provide aftercare at 8 of our school sites for $5 per month per child, which those of you who have kids know that's a steal.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so it not only is it good for the kids, right? Because they can stay for after school activities and they have time to socialize and a snack and safe places to hang out with their friends. But it's also a real asset to the families to have that safe, reliable childcare so that they can, work their full hours and that they can contribute in the ways that they do to the community and jobs and various roles that they have. So that's a program that we are just thrilled about, and families have really thanked us for that partnership. It's really been a benefit to not only the kids, but also the adults. We also have a strong partnership with Anne Arundel Community College. Last year, we had more than 500 families, 500 family members who took English basic skills classes at community schools. And, not only is English language literacy a very important skill in, this area of the world, but we also know that if the families are able to communicate with school and feel engaged in what their children are doing, that those kids, that connection, that partnership will help the students in the classroom, right? They have, the parent asking them questions about what's going on, and, I met Mrs. So-and-so, and just kind of creating that space where everyone is welcome here. We're all working together, and we're really here for the kids, here for the community. And a lot of our community partners have come out to support those types of programs. And
I love how before you referenced the school as being a hub. And I just want to share, if this is okay. I had that same feeling when I walked into one of the community schools. I was going to provide a little bit of a mommy and me yoga. And this one school in particular, I actually, when I went into their community room, I was greeted by a parent who even asked if I wanted a cup of coffee, and it was, you could tell.
I know that community school.
I know. It was this feeling, right? And just hearing about the childcare opportunity and the ability for it to really reach the whole community needs. It's absolutely wonderful.
I love that you brought up that it was a parent who greeted you
know.
and offered
I
you
know.
the coffee, right? Because we do want these schools to be places where the parents and the community have some like ownership and agency, and we know that that's their school, right? And they're going to be there longer than a lot of the staff, and that they're the people who are going to be able to move programs and initiatives forward, and we need their help and support.
Yeah, and I mean, even community schools I've been in, they've hired parents as for the positions to build those relationships with the community and have that credibility and support within their community schools, which has been amazing too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a proud AACPS parent too, and a new one. I mean, I only have a kindergartner and second grader right now, but it's definitely that feeling you want to have going into a building and feeling like you are really part of the community. And so I'm just glad that we're creating that access for parents who may not always have that. Like we're making it so accessible to where they feel like it's a home away from home. And I know, our office has partnered with community schools quite a bit, especially in the realm of wellness and student services, of course. So just to share with the audience, I've done some work with yoga and wellness, mindfulness practices at several of the schools. But could you share a little bit about some other partnerships that you foster within the community schools programming?
Yeah, we really have a lot of flexibility to do a whole lot of different things, and the school has the opportunity to do some assets and needs assessment work, so that if a community asset is a health center down the street that serves families with insurance and without insurance and has a sliding scale, then we wouldn't expand the health center in their school because they have that great community asset. So it's really varies widely across the spectrum of what schools are implementing, and I would love in the next segment to talk more about like some really concrete examples of what some schools are doing.
Yes, thank you, because I would just keep talking. This has been so wonderful, and thank you, Leah, for being with us. We're going to take a quick break, but please stay tuned so we can continue learning all about community schools. We'll be right back.
AACPS is a place for everyone, a place where connections are made, potential is nurtured, and futures are built. Whether you're learning, teaching, supporting, or leading, you belong here. You grow here. You succeed here. AACPS. Belong, grow, succeed.
Welcome back to At Your Service. We are going to continue our conversation with Leah Jaspers, Network Area Manager for AACPS Community Schools. All right, thank you so much, Leah. So when we came back, or when we were in the first segment, we were talking a little bit about a needs assessment that schools do. Can you just elaborate on that? Because as you identified, each school won't necessarily have the same services. So how do they figure out what are the appropriate services to support that specific school community?
Well, there is a process in the first year of becoming a community school where the community school program manager is really mapping out the assets of the community and identifying the needs of the community. And they do this through a variety of ways, talking to a variety of people. We have a family survey that goes out in the fall, and they also should be having focus groups and meeting with students and families and community members. The assets really help to support those needs. So that assessment is really supposed to have the community school program manager, who may be new to the community, really get a sense of what does this school have and how can I utilize those assets to meet their needs.
Okay.
And from there, they come up with a plan that is submitted to MSDE and work on that plan and revising the plan, and would do an additional assets and needs assessment a few years later.
Okay, so they do reassess it because as you pretty much laid out, things change, right? So they make sure that they're actually hitting those areas of need.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So then also the needs assessment would probably connect directly to those wraparound services you were mentioning.
That's right. So,
okay, awesome.
For example, one of the wraparound services that probably all 47 of our community schools focus on is academic enrichment or student enrichment. And what do those experiences or knowledge or information that happens outside the classroom, how can that help shape what students can understand inside the classroom? My 7th grader is reading The Diary of Anne Frank, and he actually went to the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam a couple of years ago, and that experience, he has been talking about how he's getting A's on all of his quizzes for Anne Frank, but that experience is being able to see, hear, touch, be somewhere where something important happened, or where gives you so much more context. We are not taking any of our schools to Amsterdam, but some of our students go to Philadelphia when they're learning about the Constitution, or we have done a lot of family field trips to Washington, D.C. related to units around the branches of government, and just partnering with places like the Science Center, bringing those experiences into our classroom if we can't go anywhere, or also exploring through field trips or through family engagement activities outside of the classroom really helps to solidify that learning that's happening in the classroom. We also have a lot of after-school clubs and summer activities, and just any opportunity for students and their families to build upon that growth that's happening in the classroom.
I'm always impressed with the number of after-school clubs that community schools have, and just hitting all those key interests that that other schools don't always have that opportunity. But and that engages kids to want to come to school. Hey, I have this club after school. I really want to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it also improves attendance. So
yep,
it
great. Definitely does.
Yeah.
And that's one of the goals, is that we want kids to feel good about going to school. We want them to have reasons to go to school. We want them to have additional trusted adults in their life. Maybe it's not their classroom teacher, but it's their club lead after school. And so really some overarching goals of the community school program is to increase attendance, to increase academic achievement, and to increase those good feelings about school, and make kids and their families feel like it's a place where they belong and can grow and thrive.
Absolutely.
What you mentioned one key partner, the Anne Arundel County Parks and Recs. What are some other key community partners that community schools traditionally work with?
We work a lot with Anne Arundel County government partners. The library is a huge partner for us. Like I said earlier, the library's been doing this work forever, and now we're kind of doing this work too. So we partner a lot on different things, and especially birth to 5 programming. So working with families and their littles just to get them ready for school. That's a partnership that we have been able to do great things with. The Anne Arundel County Food Bank is a great partner to us. They will allow us to use grant funding to bring the mobile pantry on site. They also sponsor a lot of our Backpack Buddies programs, which is taking the food home on the weekends. We also have a great partnership with Anne Arundel County Rec and Parks for their summer camps.
Okay.
Wow.
And for after school activities. They let us buy scholarship seats and have even done some custom programs for our schools. And the Department of Health, they're a huge partner to us. One of the things that the grant requires is that if you do not have a full-time nurse at your school, that you must use grant funding to make that nurse full-time.
Wow.
And so all community schools have full-time nurses, and we partner with the Department of Health for things like dental checks at school for third graders, and vaccine clinics, and just all sorts of health supports that we rely heavily on their partnership and expertise.
You just made me think, when I first started really learning about the intricacies of community schools, I had the opportunity to see an incredible partnership with, I think it was Vision to Learn. And I was wondering if you could share with the audience a little bit about that, because everything that you're describing here, I just keep thinking that as to such an amazing opportunity. Yeah.
So the Vision to Learn program is new. This is year 2 of implementation. We have health screening technicians at the Department of Health who screen students at community schools, and for vision, for if they need eyeglasses. And so we have, each school will get visited by the health department. They'll screen the kids. Let's say it's a school of 400 students. They may determine that 50 students failed the vision screening and really could benefit from glasses. What happened before this partnership is letters went home to families. Hey, your kid can use glasses, bring them to the eye doctor. You know, maybe a couple months later, they're calling the families again. Maybe 30 of the families have gotten glasses, but, you know, some of them haven't. And so Vision to Learn is a great partner to us. They come to our schools, and those 50 kids who failed the vision screening get a comprehensive eye exam, and they get glasses if glasses are needed. Sometimes a couple kids, you know, they'll determine that they failed the vision screening and they don't need the glasses, but they will get glasses, and community schools uses their grant dollars to pay the bill, and we also pay for that vision screening technician at the health department. But we, you know, need those partnerships in order to effectively spend those grant dollars in those ways. And last year over 500 kids got glasses, and we're on track for a lot more this year. So we're excited. If you can't see the board, you know,
like the access that it provides. I remember one little boy specifically spoke to how he could see like the droplets of rain, and I just thought that was so cool. Just that gift to give.
So you mentioned this a little bit about some of the outcomes. Obviously, we put these things in place because we want to see kids thrive and these communities thrive. What are the outcomes that you have seen or changes you have seen based on these supports and enrichments that you've brought to these community schools?
Well, you know, according to the blueprint, right, the outcomes are supposed to be increased achievement and increased attendance and increased scores on our climate assessments. So really the same way that we assess all schools. And in community schools, we have seen gains in all of those areas. And I'll use the example of the kid who got glasses, right? we are expecting that kid who got glasses to come to school more often, right? Because he can see the board, and to have good feelings, like his teacher, his schools, they care about him, and he was able to get something that he needed from school. It's a safe, wonderful place. And we also expect him to grow academically. And we're kind of seeing those outcomes on our state measurement, our house, our
Your ESSA scores.
yes, our ESSA scores. But also, if we're not, he still got glasses.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, we're tracking those things, we're seeing those gains. It is hard to quantify some of the things that are happening in our schools, but like you said, Mary Kay, when you step into one of our schools, it feels different.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
It
think
totally
the recipe
does.
for community schools is good for every school. I mean, you're building climates and cultures that make kids feel welcome and want to be there. And so to me, when you do that, you naturally should see increases in attendance and academics and climate and feelings about school. So community schools happen to have more funding to do that and more opportunities, but to me that recipe is just a great opportunity to see kids grow. So awesome.
How, I'm sorry to bring this up, but just out of curiosity, like the funding issue, right? Which has been such a hot topic, if you will, nowadays. How are you addressing the sustainability and long-term funding?
Yeah, that's a question we talk about a lot. It's one that our offices, we have a lot of discussions about this. And I tell my program managers at the school level that they should be thinking, in everything they're doing, when I'm not here or when this funding goes away, how is this school different, right? Is the Rotary still showing up in the fall with school supplies? Are the 5th grade parents still organizing a coat drive, right? So they're kind of facilitating that engagement and that agency and ownership over the school, so that when they leave, it isn't different, right? It doesn't go away. And thinking about funding, we still are wrestling with funding. For example, that Vision to Learn program, we are fully funding that out of our community schools grants. And if our funding goes away, that program goes away, right? So trying to position ourselves in ways where we're sharing those outcomes, we're sharing that information with all sorts of stakeholders, so that if a philanthropic donor, or if the county, has additional funding in their budget, that we can start passing some of those costs on to whether it be our local budgets or, donors who love the program and are excited about it, right? So.
Great.
Yeah, that's really good.
And before we wrap up, is there any one message or piece of information you want parents or community members or students to know about community schools?
I just would encourage you all to find a community school in your neighborhood and go and visit and ask how you can help, because it will be an experience that you're happy that you did. So
I would totally agree. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today and providing all this information to our
Thank you
audience.
for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And thank you all for joining us on At Your Service. We look forward to seeing you next time.